شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. As we mentioned before, the month of Ramadan is the month in which the Holy Quran was revealed. And the Quran is made up of 114 chapters. And we discussed the different methodologies of tafsir before. And so now, inshallah, we want to delve into a tafsir of one of the chapters of the Holy Quran. And we chose to start with Surat Al-Fatihah, the surah that we recite daily in our prayers. So, first and foremost, why Surat Al-Fatihah?
It's a great question. There's many ways to answer that question, but I think this narration, Brother Ali, if you can read it for us, it will answer it.
Yes. So the narration is attributed to Rasulullah. قال رسول الله لجابر بن عبد الله يا جابر ألا أعلمك أفضل سورة أنزلها الله في كتابه. So he's basically telling him, shall I teach you the best or the greatest chapter that Allah has revealed in the book? And of course Jabir would say yes. And the Prophet would say, and the narration says, فَعَلَّمَهُ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ. Alhamdulillah, which is referring to Surah Al-Fatihah, and it calls it al-Kitab.
It's a beautiful narration that sums it up and the importance of this chapter in regards to the other chapters. And we also, if you can flip the page, let's read the narration from Imam Rida alayhi salam.
Yes.
We can also grasp or get an understanding of the greatness of this chapter.
أحسنت. The narration is عن الحسن بن علي عن أبيه علي بن محمد عن أبيه all the way عن إمام الرضا all the way to أمير المؤمنين. It says سمعت رسول الله يقول إن الله تعالى قال لي يا محمد ولقد آتيناك سبعا من المثاني والقرآن العظيم.
That's عفوا, you continue.
And the continuation is, and that's a verse, just to the verse وَلَقَدْ أَتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِ وَالْقُرْآنِ الْعَظِيمِ. Then the hadith continues فَأَفْرَدَ الْإِمْتِنَانَ عَلَيَّ بِفَاتِحَةِ الْكِتَابِ وَجَعَلَهَا بِإِزَاءِ الْقُرْآنِ الْعَظِيمِ وَإِنَّ فَاتِحَةُ الْكِتَابِ أَشْرَفْ مَا فِي كُنُوزِ الْعَرْشِ.
Now this is a beautiful narration, and there's a lot of points that we can focus on, but we have one point here, this term of sab'an min al-mathani.
No.
And then we have the other part, the second part of the hadith, where the Prophet explains some of the, let's say, the highlights or the importance of this surah. First of all, the Prophet mentions the verse in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِ وَالْقُرْآنِ الْعَظِيمِ.
No.
Now, at a bare minimum, we can say that clearly Surah Al-Fatihah has importance. Now we're going to take it a step further. Why? Sab'an min al-mathani. What is this verse even saying in English?
Yes.
And surely we have revealed to you, or we have given you, O Muhammad, the 7 mathani and the Grand Quran. Okay? So linguistically, when you separate a part from its origin or from the whole, oftentimes this is done to show emphasis and importance. Okay?
So not to separate the two.
So step one, linguistically, this is used often in eloquence to really emphasize the importance of this. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we're going to use that linguistic perspective, we'll say, okay, clearly Allah is putting emphasis and importance to Surah Al-Fatihah, and He split it from the whole Quran. Because if you ask an average Muslim, is Surah Al-Fatihah part of the Quran, they're going to say yes. So according to this verse, Allah, separated Al-Fatihah from the Quran to show its importance. Okay? But if we continue reading the hadith. What does the Prophet say?
فأفرد الامتنان علي بفاتحة الكتاب وجعلها بإزاء القرآن العظيم.
So according to this narration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed a favor upon the Holy Prophet by separating Fatihatul Kitab from the rest of the Quran. And he made it an equal to the Holy Quran. So this also adds to the importance on why we should start when it comes to tafsir and contemplation with Surah Al-Fatihah. Okay? And the narration you previously read, it's the greatest surah. So what's interesting is we have other narrations. We have actually a few narrations that kind of give us an indication on when Surah Al-Fatihah was revealed. Okay, and it's connected to or describes the strikes that Iblis received. Okay, one of them is very clear in front of you. If you could please read it.
Yeah, إن إبليس رن أربع رنات. The first of them, يوم لعنة, right?
Yes.
So the day he was cursed.
Iblis was struck 4 times. The first strike is when he was cursed.
Yes. And the day he descended.
All right, he was casted out.
أحسنت إلى الأرض. And وحين بعث محمد على فترة من الرسل.
The third strike is when Prophet Muhammad was sent, and after a time period that there was no messengers. Okay, so it's as if maybe Iblis was a bit, let's say, happy, or his job maybe could have been easier in that period that there was no messengers, and then Prophet Muhammad was sent, and that cut off that time. So that's the third strike. What's the fourth one?
The last one is when Surah Al-Fatihah حين أنزلت الكتاب.
So this narration and others clearly say that when it comes to this ranna, this strike of Iblis, it took place. The fourth one is when Surah Al-Fatihah was revealed.
Yes.
Now I also want to pull out another report, and you can find this in Nahj al-Balagha, the sermon number 190, where Imam Ali is describing when Revelation first was revealed. And he was there because he witnessed that. Okay, so listen to what he says. He says that وَلَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ رَنَّةِ الشَّيْطَانِ حين نزل الوحي عليه صلى الله عليه وآله. Okay? So that's kind of the same word is used here. فقلت يا رسول الله ما هذه الرنة. So now Imam Ali can hear the strike that took place.
Yeah, what is this strike I'm hearing?
Okay, I sent to him. So he asks the Holy Prophet.
Yes.
All right, so this is what the Prophet tells him. فقال هذا الشيطان قد آيس من عبادته إنك تسمع ما أسمع وترى ما أرى إلا إنك لست بنبي ولكنك لوزير. So first of all, he's saying that he heard this when the revelation
was being revealed.
Okay, and then he asked the Prophet, what is that sound, what is that noise or vibrations? And the Prophet told him, this is the ranna of the shaitan.
Yes.
And he has lost all hope.
Yeah, but before that he told him, you hear, that's the interesting part.
You hear what I hear, and you see what I see. So if we were to connect these and the narrations you previously read, either Surah Al-Fatihah is just very, very important, or there is an opinion by some of the Mufassirin that Surah Al-Fatihah is what was revealed first.
Yes.
Okay? And when we think of the status of Surah Al-Fatihah and its Al-Kitab and the different narrations we read.
Yeah, the greatest chapter.
Of course, there's much more, narrations and other pieces to, we could say evidence or indications that Surah Al-Fatihah was revealed first, and then about 9 or 10 months later, Bi'tha took place, okay? And then the Quran started to be revealed in pieces. So, now I think we made it clear that Surah Al-Fatihah is important. Bare minimum. Okay,
for sure.
We agree that Surah Al-Fatihah is very important.
Definitely.
And like you mentioned, that we recite Surah Al-Fatihah in our daily prayers. Daily. If we're praying, just our bare minimum wajib prayers, we're reciting it at least 10 times a day. Okay? Yes. And every prayer you must have Surah Al-Fatihah in it. Yes. We can go on the virtue and importance of Surah Al-Fatihah.
No.
You can ask a Sunday school student who is in middle school about Surah Al-Fatihah, and interesting things about it. He'll mention, when somebody dies, we recite for them Surah Al-Fatihah.
I say Al-Fatihah.
When we pray, we recite Surah Al-Fatihah. We can go on and on. Now, so let's start with Surah Al-Fatihah. Let's start examining it.
No.
Okay? Like we said before, and like everybody knows, this is a book of guidance. So when we want to look and examine the verses, we want to really, our purpose and our focus is looking for the guidance, right? So now if we were to ask any Muslim who knows Surat Al-Fatihah, where, tell me, where's the clear guidance, or the first, the most clearest verse that talks about guidance in these 7 verses? What comes to your mind, Mawlana?
اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
So we ask Allah to guide us to Surat Al-Mustaqim, to the straight path. Okay. Now, how do we identify this straight path? How do we know we're on the straight path? How do we know we're following the straight path? So, does God just leave it there? Or does He give us more details or more explanation or instruction on how to find the straight path?
So now I want to do tafsir, right? I want to do tafsir, and either I can go back to linguistically, like we said, or we can go back to the Quran itself, right?
Yes.
And see who the Quran mentions.
Okay.
Are they
If
guided?
the Quran describes to us more about how to find this straight path. Yes.
أحسنت. فit says اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم.
Let's stop right there. I said, let's think about that for a moment, contemplate. The straight path, this path that we need to be on in order to, reach salvation, to reach heaven, and the importance of finding the straight path. God says what? He describes it as being the same path of those who He's bestowed His favor upon. Okay? صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. So guide us to the straight path. How do we find it? The path of those who God has bestowed His favors upon.
No.
So if we want to find Surat Al-Mustaqim, where should we look?
Yeah.
Where should we go?
You have to find those who the favors have been bestowed.
We have to find those specific people. There's a special group of people we have to find. We have to follow them, or else we won't find the straight path. So that's a very important piece of guidance. And that's also, it reminds me, sometimes, you talk to different people, and, they don't like the idea of going back to other people when it comes to guidance. They just want to go between them and God. And I'm not saying, you don't have a special relationship just between you and God. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, it's very clear from this verse. You have to refer back to specific people, the people that God has bestowed His favor upon. You follow them, and that is following the straight path. So, inshallah, in our discussion today, and inshallah in the next episode, we're going to actually try to find who these people are through the Quran. Let's see what the Quran does. The Quran give us more explanation, more details, more information about these people. Let's try to see what the Quran says and see if it narrows down a bit.
Yes.
All right?
Ahsan.
So, first of all, I want to start with Maliki Yawmiddin, which God is, there's a mention of the Day of Judgment here. Okay, and we're going to apply what we discussed in the previous lesson, the previous episode of the tools or references for tafsir, and we're going to apply it here. So, in this verse, God talks about the Day of Judgment.
Yes.
So now let's go to other verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Day of Judgment. Okay? Now, if we go to, for example, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly is talking about the Day of Judgment there. Okay?
Yes.
Now, what's one thing we can take from there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة. First of all, we should pause here. On that day, okay, on the Day of Judgment, where we're either going to heaven or we're going to hell. How many destinations? Two. But God says, how many groups are we? Three. That's interesting. Now, who are these 3 groups? I mean, you would think that it should be 2 groups, 2 destinations. People going to heaven or people going to hell. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us what? There's 3 groups. So Allah describes them. فَأَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ. So we have the companions of the right.
Ahsant.
Then we have وَأَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ. And then, so that's the second group. Then we have the third group. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Jay. So, this is very important here. So on the Day of Judgment, like we have 3 groups. Okay. Now, we need to, why is there 3 groups?
Yeah.
When I first came across this, it really, captured my attention. Why is there 3 groups? There's 2 destinations. So we need to actually now start to look into more verses that describe to
why
us
they
these
classified
groups.
in this way. Yeah.
More details about these 3 groups, and then we need to find the relationship between these 3 groups, so we can make sure we're on the right side. Okay,
Yes.
we're not from the companions of the left. Now, before we move on, these 3 groups. So companions of the right, companions of the left, and the sabiqun. 2 of them are clearly going to be in heaven. The companions of the right and the sabiqun. And the companions of the left are going to be in hell. So we want to make sure that we are not from the companions of the left.
No.
Okay? Alright, so we're going to go into a few more verses and we're going to see what we come up with in regards to these 3 groups and what details we can get from the Quran. So we know who to follow, how we can make sure we are on Surat Al-Mustaqim. So now let's go into more details about the companions of the right.
No.
The same chapter, after describing heaven, in verse 38, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives us a little bit more about the companions of the right. لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين. So I want to pause there for a moment. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes to us the companions of the right, and Allah splits them into 2 groups.
No.
The people, the ones that were from the awwaleen and the ones from the akhirin. And all of our scholars have agreed.
So awwaleen is like the first, right?
So I'm going to explain that. So basically anybody from Adam until before Prophet Muhammad falls under the category of awwaleen.
Awwaleen, okay.
Anybody from Prophet Muhammad down to the
so
judgment
he's
is akhirin.
So he's the gauge, the Prophet.
Ahsant.
Before him, awwaleen. After him,
It's almost like a timeline, but yeah. Prophet Muhammad is the one, starts a new phase. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us some details that there's many of them in the past, and there's many of them in the later times. So in these 2 ages of time, or 2 stages in time. Now we go other verses describe to us the sabiqun. And the sabiqun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them as being thullatun min al-awwaleen, a great amount, a large amount in the awwaleen time frame, wa qalilun min al-akhirin, and a few amounts of the akhirin.
So the akhirin are less in the numbers.
Yes.
Of
So
the sabiqun.
when I think of these verses, a table comes to my mind. Okay, and I have awwaleen, akhirin, and I put the companions of the right and the sabiqun.
Okay.
And we see when it comes to the awwaleen time frame before Prophet Muhammad, they're both great amounts.
No.
Okay, but when it comes to Prophet Muhammad and down to the Day of Judgment, the sabiqun are different here.
There's
less amount. They're few amount, but awwaleen continue to be a great amount. Now, that means there's no difference if we're trying to analyze the companions of the right, but the difference is on the sabiqun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a differentiation between the sabiqun of the awwaleen and the sabiqun of the akhirin. Okay? Now, we need to get, a better understanding of the relationship. Now that was the quantity. Now
But I have a quick question.
Yes.
I mean, what if someone comes and says that, like you said, it's a matter of quantity.
Yes.
What if the from Adam to the Prophet, there's been much more people than from Nabi Muhammad until now? So what if someone says and argues that's why the Quran said that?
We can tell. Well, that claim, first of all, there's no evidence to back it up, because that person does not have a timeline on when akhirin finish, when it ends, right? So they're just coming up with hypothetical scenarios, and we can come up with a lot of those, but they would have to have, the data collected of all mankind from the beginning of time till the end of time. Sadly, we have not reached the end of time for them to complete their data collection. So I'm sorry that that theory, it's a bit hard. But at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this differentiation. So we need to go deeper about the connection between the relationship between these groups. Okay? So now this brings
Ashab al-Yamin and the Sabiqun.
So we have verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this dialogue between the companions of the right and the companions of the left. Okay? So the verse goes إلا أصحاب اليمين في جنات يتساءلون عن المجرمين ما سلككم في سقر قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. Let's stop there.
Yes.
So the companions of the right are where? They're in heaven. And they ask the people that they used to know on this earth, they ask the companions of the left, you know, why are you in hellfire? Why are you burning down there? Basically, what did you do to get you there?
Yeah. From what you read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me.
We didn't pray.
They say we were not of the musallin.
Yeah, we never used to pray.
We were not of the musallin.
No.
And that's why we're in hellfire. Now, what does musallin here mean? Okay, either, like you said, we were not of those who performed prayer.
Yeah, salah, musallin.
Okay. Yeah, we were not of those who performed prayer.
Ahsan.
So that's that. But then we can refer back to the language, linguistically, like we said. We refer back to the Arabic language. The usage of this word has different usages. This is one of them, prayer. But another usage is following. Okay? Now, it's interesting. I have from one of the Sunni ulama in tafsir, we're going to see what he says about this specific word in this specific ayah.
Okay.
Let's see. Does he say it's of those who prayed? And then I have a riwayah from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, and we'll compare them. So, Sheikh Ali, if you would do us the honor to tell us, what does Al-Raghib al-Asfahani tell us about Musallin in this verse? Okay. Does he say it's of those who prayed or of those who followed?
So it says, لم نكن من المصلين أي من أتباع النبيين. Okay.
So Al-Raghib al-Asfahani in his book, he says in this specific usage of musallin, it's not for the daily prayers. It's not for prayer.
It has to do with the atba'.
So we were not of those who follow.
Followers.
He uses it. He understands it as following. Now we go to our imams. Multiple narrations here. I'm just going to choose this one.
No.
The imam says that أي لم نكن من أتباع الأئمة. We were not of those who followed the imams.
The imams.
Okay? So let's just keep it, we can keep the imams and the prophets out of it. The word is follow. Okay?
No.
We were not of the followers. So the companions of the left were not of the followers. They did not follow. The companions of the right followed. We're left with one group that are supposed to be followed. Who are the sabiqun? Inshallah, in the next episode, we'll take it a few more steps deeper, and we will also go into, you know, this title of the people who've received God's blessings or God has bestowed His favors upon, الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ, and we want to get more details about them in the Quran. We want to narrow this down and see, you know, who is it that we need to follow so that we can be on Surat Al-Mustaqim.
So, but the sabiqun,
yes,
is they're ahead of the.
Yes, sabiqun are those in the front. Okay, those who are ahead. Okay. And according to this, the companions of the right, they followed the sabiqun.
Okay.
And the companions of the left did not follow the sabiqun. Okay. We're going to stop it there, and
so
then our next episode we're going to
now, of course, everybody, we want to know, especially me, I want to know, who are the sabiqun now?
Inshallah, we will get into details, because like I said, the Quran says there's two groups of sabiqun. Those from the awwaleen, before Prophet Muhammad, all the way to Prophet Adam, and we have a sabiqun from Prophet Muhammad ila yawm al-qiyamah.
And there's a difference,
Let's see what details we can get from the Quran about this group. And we're going to focus after that on Surat Al-Ladhina An'amta Alayhim. This title, this group that God has bestowed His favors upon. We need to find them so we can make sure we're on the straight path.
Inshallah. Thank you, Sheikhna, for the wonderful knowledge that you've shared with us. I'm sure everybody's going to be looking at Surat Al-Fatihah a little bit differently for the time being. Thank you for everything, and inshallah we can continue to benefit. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa ala Ali Baytih al-Tayyibin al-Tahirin.
Allahumma salli
ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.